Hey there, and welcome back to another Obi-Wan Kenobi review. And today we're going to be talking about the latest episode to drop, Part 5, which follows off from the cliffhanger ending last week, where Obi and the gang escaped the Fortress Inquisitorius and ended up being tracked to Jabiim by the Empire, as Leia's droid Lola had a tracker placed inside her. So yeah, coming into this episode I expected some big things, and for the most part I wasn't disappointed. And so, with that being said, let's jump into the episode. We start off the episode at Coruscant of all places, with the camera zooming out to show Anakin, but like Padawan Anakin, pre-Attack of the Clones Anakin. Except for some reason, they didn't use the newfangled de-aging technology to make him look younger. So now we have 40-year-old Padawan learner training with Obi-Wan who, whilst he does look a bit older, he still feels like he fits in with the timeline. Seriously, I know that the Luke Skywalker CGI can be a little uncanny valley at times, but this one, they really should have worked harder on it, because I was all hyped to see Anakin and Obi-Wan training, because that's stuff we don't usually get to see as the films and TV shows are more focused on the dramatic moments of their life. But I kept getting dragged out of it by how old he looks. But we then cut to Vader on his flagship, where he's talking to Reva. And it's nice to get some more low-key Vader again. More like he is in the original trilogy, where he talks a lot and is both mysterious and threatening, as opposed to super angry Vader, which is what we've mostly seen in this show so far. And obviously both versions work well, but it's nice to see them more blended together. He then asks her to kneel before him, and honestly, I thought that now she'd led him to Obi-Wan, he might just straight up murder her. But obviously, that doesn't happen. But I just felt like it was a bit of a setup here. But anyway, she gets named Grand Inquisitor, and we'll see how long that's going to last, and they set off for Jabiim together. Speaking of which, on Jabiim, we see the crew arrive back at base to find a whole bunch of refugees waiting for the transport to be ready so they can escape the Empire and protect their Force-sensitive children. And seeing their plight, Obi-Wan reactivates his Jedi mode and pledges to do whatever he can do to help them, before Vader orders Reva to order Lola to sabotage the facility and lock it down so that there's no escape, likely in the hopes that this will convince Obi-Wan to try and sacrifice himself for the others. And so the facility locks down, and Obi-Wan correctly deduces that it's Vader himself that's going to come after them, and that he'll probably simply outright attack them since he doesn't have the patience to wait them out. And this assumption is backed up by more 40-year-old Padawan versus Obi-Wan flashbacks, where Anakin continues to show off his reckless and aggressive demeanour, whilst Obi-Wan struggles in vain to convince him that a Jedi's role is to preserve and protect life, not take it. We then get a great scene where Obi-Wan revives his Clone Wars general persona, and develops a plan for how they're going to survive the Empire's assault, first by locking down the entrances to the hangar, and working together to fight a defensive battle to buy as much time as possible for the technicians to open the doors, so that everybody can escape. And we then get a fun little montage of the refugees preparing for battle, as the Empire assembles their troops outside for the assault, and begins blasting the door with a cannon, as Reva shouts things inaudibly. But I'm not sure why they only have one of these big guns. Wouldn't it have made much more sense if they had, I don't know, a few of them? Like, what a waste of time, just waiting for this single cannon to blast through, when they could have gotten in much faster if they brought more artillery. Anyway, since nobody knows that Lola's actually a double agent at this stage, Roken's unable to fix the doors, and he doesn't know why. Which in turn prompts Leia to head into the vents to see what's the matter, giving her something to do this episode since she's not able to be a fighter at this point in time. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan gets a voicemail from Bail, which says that in case he's been captured by Vader, Bail will go to Tatooine to help Owen hide Luke, and surely this is a terrible idea sending this message, because now, if Vader had managed to capture Obi-Wan, and found this recording, he'd probably think, oh, my stepbrother has a child that needs protecting from me? Why? And I think he'd pretty quickly figure it out. Hell, even if he only sent some Inquisitors to go find out, they'd come back with a kid called Skywalker, pretty much ensuring that Luke is discovered and trained up as a new apprentice by Palpatine to replace Vader. Hell, it would also hint that Leia is similarly his daughter. So there in turn is another dark side apprentice for old mate Sidious. And I mean, it just feels like a premium smooth brain move by Bail. Way to give up the game, mate. Anyway, Obi-Wan looks shaken by all this, so Tala gives him a bit of a pep talk by talking about this one time she was part of a massacre of Force-sensitive families, and not exactly a story I would have picked to hype somebody up to keep on fighting and try and let go of the past, but I do get the intention. She just seems so nice, so it's a shame that she had so many death flags at this stage of the game. And this story was just the last nail in the coffin. We then head back to the front lines, where it looks like the gate's not going to hold much longer, and so Obi-Wan decides to try and negotiate with Reva, and begins to figure out who she is. and how that she knew that Darth Vader was Anakin, deducing that she's the youngling that we saw from the start of the first episode during Order 66, and that all her friends had been slaughtered while she played dead and hid amongst the corpses. It's then revealed that she's in fact hunting Darth Vader to try and avenge her youngling clan, the only family she ever knew, and this was actually quite sad. And I like that she didn't just go all, oh yeah, I'm still good. Like, nah, she's gonna massacre this place anyway. She's in it for revenge, and she's not gonna let anybody stand in her way. To her, Obi-Wan is a means to an end. She's gonna kill him either way, and she doesn't want to absolve him of any responsibility. And honestly, fair enough. The dude trained him, and was a sitting member of the Jedi Council. He does hold some culpability for what happened. I mean, less than the Sith and Darth Vader, of course, but still some. At this point, she opens the door with her lightsaber, and Obi-Wan pushes her back whilst dozens of stormtroopers prove why they're the least efficient fighting force in the galaxy, managing to miss him and many of the refugees completely. Heaps of stormtroopers die, as is tradition, whilst like one rebel died, I think, before they're pushed back to the next gate. And here is the point of the episode where all those death flags came back into play, and we said farewell to Tala and NED-B. Oh, what a good boy, staying with his master until the end and shielding her once she got shot. And then she blows herself up to stop the stormtroopers' assault for the time being, and yeah. This one hurt. I really liked her character and her dynamic with Obi-Wan. But yeah, she had to die to set up the original trilogy and to actually add some stakes to the story. But still, it's sad. And poor Obi-Wan doesn't even have the time to properly mourn his friend. He has to stay in the moment and let it go. Darth Vader then orders them to stand down before we get another glimpse of Anakin and Obi-Wan's training, where Anakin's laying in the patented Skywalker beatdown on Obi-Wan and ordering him to surrender and admit defeat. And in the present, Obi-Wan starts to do just that, with the loss of Tala shaking him. Or at least, that's how it first appears as he surrenders his lightsaber, until he tells the assembled group that there are other ways to fight, and thus, he goes out to face Reva, where he tries to play on her conscience and convince her that this is the perfect time to try and betray Vader, as he'll be solely focused on Obi-Wan, and he won't be focusing. That he's not going to see his assassination coming until it's too late. And I mean, there's no hope of this working, even if you hadn't watched the movies before, but good work manipulating her, I guess. We then see more of the flashback duel where Anakin disarms Obi-Wan, only to be told that his need for victory blinds him, as we cut to Darth Vader arriving at the base to personally complete the mission to capture Obi-Wan. Of course, by this point, Obi-Wan's already murdered his guards and made his way back to his allies to try and escape, just as Leia discovers that Lola's being controlled and saves her, which in turn allows her to fix the hangar door and allows the refugees to begin their escape. And honestly, this whole Leia thing was a really clever way to handle her character not being all that relevant or necessary this episode. But on the other hand, it also took her a damn long time to find that one chord. Anyway, Vader turns up as the ship's making its escape, and he pulls it down with the Force and tears it open, only to be bamboozled as a second ship escapes, revealing that this one was simply an autopilot diversion. Sucked in. And this was actually quite clever. But my god, Vader was a beast here regardless. It makes me wonder why he didn't just straight up capture Obi-Wan, Tala, and NED-B back with the fire. And I mean, surely he could have used the Force to read Tala's mind like Reva did to Haja? No? I mean, he didn't need to track them. And from here, we see the conclusion of the flashback duel, where Obi-Wan defeats Anakin using his brain, outwitting him instead of outfighting him. Finishing the lesson by telling him that until he stops needing to prove himself, he will remain a Padawan. So, if this is the last time they meet until A New Hope, then the whole circle is now complete dialogue is going to be referring to this moment, him outsmarting him. I'm not sure I like that. Reva then completely bungles her assassination attempt by attacking after Vader no longer has anything else to worry about, and I mean, seriously, why not attack when he's trying to grab the ship with the Force? And then, she yells out loud as she swings, like she screams. Come on. Rookie mistakes. And so, he destroys her, with no saber. He just uses the Force to block her attacks and dodges her. And then he takes her double blade off her, halves it, gives her half, and destroys her again for fun. And then he takes her saber off her again, before forcing her to her knees, and I mean, here was the second possible Count Dooku moment, but nope, doesn't behead her, he stabs her in the stomach, so that she can somehow survive. And we know that she will survive this, because we see her receive the Bail Organa recording, so she's going to be coming for Luke now. Plus, she also survived Vader stabbing her as a kid apparently. And on top of that, the Grand Inquisitor is revealed to be alive as well. And I mean, yet Qui-Gon Jinn ended up dead from a lesser wound. Come on now. I feel like getting impaled on a weapon that superheats metal with one swing is a death sentence. Her organs would be boiled, even the ones that didn't touch the blade. It went right through her, and he held it there. She's dead. She has to be dead. Anyway, I did love the Grand Inquisitor's portrayal, all things considered. He was just so smug. And was he just waiting on the ship, giggling whilst Vader was pretending to trust Reva? Hell, I mean, Vader's probably smirking under that mask at this dumb kid that thought she was going to outplay them all and then got clapped. He even gives her the Jedi equivalent of sit down, kid, by calling her youngling. Destroyed. Physically and mentally destroyed. There's no coming back from this defeat. I think besides the time that Palpatine killed 3 Jedi Masters in about 5 seconds, this has to be the most embarrassing defeat in Star Wars history. I mean, at least Luke on Cloud City has the excuse of being trained for, only a few weeks? Months by Yoda? And pretty much being self-taught before that. And then they don't even finish her off. They just leave her to die in the dirt. But yeah, she doesn't die because of reasons, and off they go after Obi-Wan, whose ship has a broken hyperdrive. So obviously, they aren't out of the woods yet either. And this is where the episode ends. I enjoyed this one, but Reva has plot armor. Like, really bad plot armor. Surely Vader would know better than to leave her alive. He literally survived being immolated in a lava river, and yet he leaves her in a place where she definitely has a chance of survival and escape. Nah. It felt like she only survived for plot reasons, but not because it actually made sense. But anyway, that's the end of the episode. These have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the episode? Like it? Hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.